Last year, at the beginning of summer, I was assaulted by a significantly older and popular content creator. I was freshly 18 and had just graduated high school a few weeks prior.
On March 9th, 2024, a streamer by the name of Bugs would begin a Twitch live broadcast in which she would open up about her experience with an individual who sexually assaulted her. Although she never said the name outright, viewers of this stream were quickly able to deduce that the male individual Katie was accusing was Minecraft YouTuber GeorgeNotFound. This event would eventually spiral into one of the most perplexing and interesting allegations ever publicly levied against a celebrity. This is the interesting allegations of GeorgeNotFound. Before continuing with the video, I just want to say real quick that I appreciate all of the new viewers that I've been getting on my recent uploads. I really appreciate all of you and the support that you've been showing me. It's really been tremendous. So I just wanted to thank all of you. Anyway, enjoy the video. Bugs, who I will be calling Katie in this video, was a medium-sized Twitch streamer and YouTube influencer. Her upbringing was mostly built by gaming content, but today she's most remembered for her Twitch stream exposing GeorgeNotFound for allegedly sexually assaulting her.
Last year, at the beginning of summer, I was assaulted by a significantly older and popular content creator. I was freshly 18 and had just graduated high school a few weeks prior. I was drunk in a hotel room with other people around me when it happened. He was someone I had once watched, and he was 8 years older than me and far more powerful.
If you want to watch Katie's full VOD, I have it linked in the description, and I won't go into full detail here, but basically, George was accused of pulling a Harvey Weinstein on Katie in the hotel room. According to Katie, she originally wasn't going to make a stream exposing George, but was inspired by Shubble to make the allegations public. If you want to learn more about Shubble and the Wilbur allegations, I have a video on it linked in the description. After the stream exposing George went viral, he was of course basically obligated to make a response of some kind. George announced that he was collecting evidence and that the response would be in the form of a YouTube video. Katie, however, had a few choice words for him on Twitter about him collecting evidence to debunk the allegations.
Meanwhile, Katie posted a statement on Twitter preparing for his response. Pull whatever you can find. I've also screen recorded everything. I plan on using it to support my case if needed, but please share it on my behalf if you'd like, because we both know what happened. That's why I can sleep at night without scrambling for screenshots to try and twist.
On March 11th, George's awaited response would be uploaded to YouTube, and he would argue that the story Katie was telling was completely different to how the events of that night actually took place.
You can see in these screenshots from the text at the time that they were all trying to come to the hotel, and it wasn't just oh, we're willing to follow her. Essentially, they were all in the group chat and part of the discussion to go to the hotel.
He would say that he met Katie and a few other people at VidCon, and they would end up creating a group chat together. Eventually, this relationship culminated into them wanting to hang out together in Dream's hotel room. The group would end up drinking alcohol and playing various drinking games well into the night. It is worth mentioning that all the people in this group were above 18, so no Aubrey Graham situations here. However, Katie was exactly 18, which would make her under 21, which obviously would make it illegal for her to drink. But according to George, he was under assumption that she was 21, given the fact that she was drinking publicly earlier and apparently attended a 21 plus gatherings previously with a 21 plus gatherings wristband. Katie, in her video, claimed that she had to be persuaded to go to Dream's hotel room. George claimed in his video that everyone was completely and independently okay with going to the hotel room, which apparently this was actually the second time they were drinking in Dream's hotel room, but whatever. After a while, a few people left the gathering, leaving only George, Katie, Dream, two of Katie's friends, and one of George's friends. At this point, George claims that Katie was smiling and having a good time, which goes against Katie's story. George also claimed that Katie wasn't quietly playing games on her phone by herself as she had claimed, but was instead playing games with everyone else in the room, including George, so basically being social.
We actually continued to send each other high score updates even weeks after the event. To add further context to this moment, we were all actually sitting on the couch that was in the hotel room playing this game on her phone. And during this, me and Katie were at the far end of the couch and we were cuddling together. We had been cuddling for, I'd say, around an hour at this point, playing the game, talking, and just having fun. And for clarity, I had my hand around her waist above her clothes.
Basically, we have two conflicting stories here. Katie's, where George got Katie drunk, interpreted her silence as consent, and took advantage of her. And George's story, where none of this happened and instead the group was just hanging out, no one was forced to drink, and Katie consented. Also, Katie claimed that George creepily followed her out of the hotel room when she left, but George claimed that because Dream wanted to sleep, they were all forced to leave, and George did not follow Katie creepily out of the room. From this point, they never met in person again, but did text each other from time to time. George's story changed everything, and if it were to be interpreted as the true string of events, then George was not guilty of sexual assault, and Katie's claims were heavily exaggerated. Katie would respond to George's response in the form of a document on Twitter, but her response was a little lackluster and lacked any evidence.
This was still very much a he said, she said, but his response meant that she had to have a very, very good rebuttal. On March 11th, Katie posted a 10-image-long response on her Twitter. She addresses several of the points that George made, although her responses are pretty lackluster. He admitted to touching me, that I was drunk, that I verbally didn't consent. In my mind, the conversation is over. He said silence does not equal consent, yet never got verbal confirmation from me, chose to move to a sexual act on the couch where everyone was hanging out without asking. I don't know how those two facts coexist. How can I consent when there was no question? How can I consent when drunk? Obviously, asking for verbal consent is preferred, and sometimes that does happen, but as anyone who has had sex can attest, count me out obviously, consent in sexual interactions are typically not as cut and dry as asking every step of the way. Instead, a number of social indicators can communicate if someone is comfortable or uncomfortable with the interaction. So the idea that because Katie never verbally consented, she was necessarily assaulted, is ridiculous.
At this point, Katie's response was now filled with many holes in her story. She claimed that George was the one who wanted to play the drinking games, when it was herself who wanted to play them according to text messages. And she left out many crucial details, such as her getting back in the position on the couch every single time. The situation with George and Katie is very different from other Minecraft YouTuber controversies, such as Dreams or Wilbur's, simply because there isn't a completely definitive answer as to who is telling the truth. The general consensus seems to be that George is the one telling the truth, and that Katie exaggerated/made up many things in her story to make George look bad. In my opinion, I think that George should have handled the situation in a much more careful way. He should have asked for more concrete consent, he should have ensured that Katie was 21, although she was 18, and he probably should have avoided the situation altogether considering both parties were intoxicated. However, I don't think that what George did was anywhere near sexual assault. George was led to believe that Katie consented, he was unaware that Katie was only 18, which still makes her a legal adult, and he shouldn't be held responsible for her receiving alcohol as that was mostly her friends doing. Katie would go on to change her story several times, and although Dream and, more importantly, George would express remorse for Katie going through a bad time, George never admitted to being guilty. As I said, it's generally considered by most people that George is innocent of the SA claims because his final response basically put the situation to bed.
First of all, I just want to make it clear that my tweet that I put out after my first statement wasn't somehow admitting to guilt or completely backtracking on what I originally said. My perspective had changed due to new information that Katie had provided, so now I'm just going to go over Katie's new statement and talk about what she had to say. So first, she acknowledges the texts that I showed about them talking about wanting to play the drinking games are real, but that they were from her friends. I only brought up that point because the implication was that it was kind of creepy of us and we were forcing the game on them.
There was more alcohol in the room, and we were encouraged to drink some more as they offered the bottles to us and insisted on drinking games, and already drunk, I obviously complied.
In reality, it was mutually talked about and everyone was just having fun. The next thing she talks about is the elevator. She said that we left at the same time and that her hotel room was on the other side of the hotel. So there was like kind of two corridors connected by an elevator room in the middle. So she's saying that she was just going past the elevator to get to her room. And again, this is totally reasonable. I brought this up because from her stream, the way that it was told kind of implied that I followed her out and then that she waited to take the next elevator instead of getting in with me while I tried to convince her to get in. I'll just play the clip of her saying this, so I'm not speaking for her.
I went to leave, and the older guy decided to leave with me. We walked to the elevators, where I didn't get on. He then pretended that the elevator was broken and that he couldn't leave, telling me to get in the elevator to prove it was broken.
In my original video, I just wanted to clarify this, that we left together because the night was over, and that she was on the same floor, so she didn't actually have to take the elevator. And it seems like she agrees with this now. She said she didn't mention him though because he left early and she didn't even know his name. And she shows a text message that she says is from him from the night where this happened, where he says this. Obviously, this is implying that he was kind of uncomfortable with what was happening, and also that he knew her age, despite just meeting her. And when I first saw this actually majorly changed my perspective on the night, because that would mean that my friend was also uncomfortable and somehow knew her age when I didn't. And even though she said that he left early, my memory of it was actually that he was the last to leave, just before me and Katie left. Dream also came to me and mentioned that this changed his perspective of the night as well, because that would mean that he was essentially the only person that wasn't uncomfortable, and that therefore he should have known. This really concerned me. I kind of was just sitting there like really thinking, how could this have happened? So I reached out to my friend to talk to him about it. And it turns out that he actually didn't send this message. I'm gonna play a phone call that I had with him after I found this out, just because I think it gives more context.
What's up?
So there is a text that is claimed to be from you.
Yeah, I didn't send that text. I found out about it when you sent it to me. But yeah, no, that wasn't me. I don't know where they got that from. I didn't ask them for any of their phone numbers or anything like that.
At the end of it all, I believe that George is innocent because he has more evidence backing up his story and had logical explanations to all of Katie's allegations. It's that simple. Until next time, I'm Sir Pork, commanding all of you to hit the subscribe button. But maybe make sure that the subscribe button is consenting.